When you write an academic paper, you're really doing two things. You're communicating, but in order to communicate, you've got to have something to say.
Make sure you've got a question, something that made you curious, that you're trying to answer. Sometimes it will turn out asked and answered. The question you have in mind has an easy answer. Other times you might say, well, they asked it, but they answered it, and you know what? I think they're wrong, or it didn't quite give me closure on this following piece of the answer. It led to more questions.
A good thesis isn't just describing something that happened, but it's about arguing for a position. Ideally, when there are multiple interpretations possible, and you choose one that matches your understanding of the evidence, and you draw out the evidence to support your argument, you deal with counter-evidence that also might be interpreted in different ways.
I think the argument in creative work is always there. It can be a creative argument in the literary sense, where somebody is using a form and bending it to accomplish something that's a little bit different, that's never quite been done before. And if you can grasp that argument, you're onto another dimension of the poetry that I find really quite interesting.
Technical writing is absolutely the same in terms of argument, in that you're trying to persuade or convince a reader that your technical approach to a problem is correct. In our world, counter-argument is often, there are an infinite number of ways that you can do many things. How do you choose the best one? So typically you need to establish a framework in which you're going to pose this argument and counter-argument.
So a lot of times you start most pieces of writing, whether it's a grant proposal or a paper or a review, with essentially a hypothesis. What was the hypothesis? And then you bring in different elements that might falsify or demonstrate that hypothesis.
Try to think hard and clearly about what would make hypotheses true or false. You can't just have an idea out there because it's interesting, because you thought of it and you're proud of it. What matters is it right or is it wrong? And how do you determine whether it's right or wrong? Well, you don't appeal to authority. It's not written down anywhere. You have to evaluate it using logic and experiments and empirical phenomena.
Whether you're doing research or anything else, what you're selling are your ideas. The way I view expository writing is that it's practice at writing your ideas in a way that you can, quote, sell them to others or market them to others, or in some case get people to believe them.
So often in reading papers of any kind, including published ones, we move along and we come to the best part near the end. So often that part should be right up front. Readers generally don't want to know how you thought through things. They want to know what you think now, what you have come to as a position.